Okay. Oh my God.
Wow.
Welcome to The Downside with Gianmarco Soresi. People, they hear this podcast, they're like, there's something bad happened before they started recording. Gianmarco's coming in hot. And I got a new box and it wasn't working, but it's working now.
It is. It's working now.
Right?
Sounds
I think
good.
I did the thing.
I think you fixed it.
Now I can't tell because I could tell part of you was like, we need to just
Yeah.
settle him down.
Yeah, some part of
And
me
I
was
can
just
feel
like,
it.
yeah, no, it sounds great now. Let's just record. No, it sounds much better. We have stands.
We have stands
for the microphones.
Guys, watch the video of the podcast because things are getting better. This all credit goes to Tova. What were we saying?
And I was going to also say, how nice of you, so we have 2 out of the 3 chairs, not the right colors yet, but
thank you for pointing this out.
Very nice of you to give me and our guest Lane the good chairs while you sit on this old
garbage
wooden
that my
chair.
mom got me.
Yeah.
Garbage chair. You're Russell Daniels.
Yes.
And we're joined. This is a very special episode.
Yeah.
As
Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. As you know, if you listen to this podcast, we're figuring it all out. And sometimes we just have a guest and we just talk about their life. And it can be tough because sometimes you're like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
You grew up. Yeah, I was about to say a specific, like a guest. Like just throw a guest under the bus big time. But who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
And sometimes their family, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
But this one, we had an idea. So I'm very excited to welcome. She just was a guest uncle for our sketch team, Uncle Function.
Yes.
Please welcome Lane. Say her last name for us, Russell.
Kwederis.
Kwederis.
Yes.
I know.
You know what? Just remember the female body part.
That's what I was going to ask.
But said like a
yeah.
toddler.
Wait.
Like female body part.
Yeah, and then you brought up toddler, and I was like,
yeah.
let's separate these two things.
No, like said like a
But
toddler.
Said like a toddler.
Like if a toddler was saying
I
it.
like that a lot.
Thanks, Kwederis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's I think that plays directly into one of our topics for today, which is about sexual kinks. Russell, what would you say?
You felt like you were doing a Jeff Goldblum impression.
I do. Kinks. Kinks. Now, Russell, what would you say your kinks are?
We're gonna just focus on you.
So the way this episode came about, someone dropped.
Yes.
Number one, we would have had you anyway, but someone did drop.
Yes.
And we were in rehearsal, and show went great. You did a fantastic job, by the way.
Thank you.
Stepped in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
last
tough.
minute, 2 days before she stepped in.
I forgot. It's 2 days before because we had someone and they
booked something
and scared about COVID. We're all figuring it out.
Yeah.
Believe me, if I booked anything, I'd be out of there.
Yeah.
I'm begging. I'm saying, can I please headline anywhere, bumfuck nowhere, PA, get me out of this.
Yeah. Thank
and
you.
you stepped in. What's it? 2 days notice?
3 days.
I think you found out 3 days, but you came. Your first rehearsal was Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
For Friday.
Yeah.
So it was a quick turnaround. You killed it. Very exciting. But yeah, in rehearsal,
And well, it reminds me. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you were you started as a theater? Were you a theater person?
Yeah.
Do you remember Speed the Plow? Jeremy Piven, who's now a stand-up comedian. Because that's a good sign. He dropped out of that play last minute. He said he had mercury poisoning, which looking back, you're like, this is bullshit. The older you get, you're like, oh yeah, that was clearly a lie. And Norberlia Butts stepped in with 3 days notice. They just needed a star. And I remember he said yes to the gig, and then he threw up immediately because he's in the whole play. He's the whole play.
Oh my God.
And I think I saw the night that he did it all without calling line, because when he finished, like he celebrated so hard. And Russell, Paul, what's his name? What's the famous actor? Paul Esparza.
Raul
Esparza came out and gave him a big hug. It's funny, I was seeing it in my head.
We really chastised you for that one.
Raul Esparza. Law and Order's Raul Esparza. So, did you throw up?
No, I just finished getting my eyebrows threaded. is what I did. I
think you should have left with one eyebrow threaded. You're like, I have to go. There's sketches to learn.
Comedy show to do.
But I hope you had fun. It can
had
be
so much
challenging
fun.
because we're a longtime friends, and sometimes when you join a group of friends practicing it, you have to kind of make yourself at home. It can be tough.
Yeah, but it's a pretty homey group.
Yeah, I felt like it was a good. Both of our guests, I felt like were like very like
Yes.
like there was not like sometimes I feel like all the recent guests that we've had have been pretty good about jumping right in and you know.
Sure.
I also think we're better now at knowing who we are and how we do things.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it takes a while to figure out that, and I feel like we're.
Was I too cold? I can be a little cold. I can be a little like kind of.
I feel like I
exhausted.
can be cold to new people.
You?
Really?
Yeah, not like me.
See, she's a really.
not cold.
I didn't
but
say
like,
it about you.
I'm more.
We have it on record.
I'm more shy.
I hope.
I'm more shy. I feel like, and sometimes
Sure.
it maybe comes off as like indifferent or.
I think
and
I'm so
apathetic.
punchy with you guys that it could be perceived as. I did a joke because we had 2 shows canceled now because of COVID.
Yeah.
Last minute COVID. So right before the last rehearsal, I texted everyone a picture of a positive COVID test. And I said, I'm so sorry, you guys.
By the way,
And-
when you texted that, I was about to go in for my callback. I didn't get to see that it was a joke. For me, there was some part
No
of me
way.
that was like, "Is this real?" And I was like waiting. I was like I had to rent a room at Ripley Greer to do a callback, a Zoom callback, because then we had to go to rehearsal.
Nightmare.
So I'm waiting there on camera, just waiting for it to come on. I get your text, and then I like immediately see your thing, and then the screen pops up, the green light comes on, and so I'm like, wait, does he really have COVID? Like for you know, for the 5 to 7 minutes I was in the thing, and then I got out and I saw the things.
Oh,
but
my
like
God.
I should have known, but like I was also, my head wasn't there, so I wasn't even thinking that you could be joking about that.
Yeah, it was too close to. Like,
Yeah.
clearly. I wouldn't have waited right before rehearsal.
That's true.
But
Yeah. It's
bottom
just
line
a
is-
funny thing to joke about. It's just like a gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. The show's canceled again.
you know what? The pranked are never the fans of the prank, and that's just
It is
that's
true.
just the nature of being a prankster.
Right.
But you said something to me about findom,
Yes.
which I've talked briefly about on this podcast, but I've always wanted to go further into, and I think I was shocked because you talked about it so openly, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I might have a misconception where I'm like, I would never know, or no one would ever bring it up, but you did, and I was like, oh fuck, we have to talk about this because I'm so fascinated by it.
We should also probably clarify, not everyone knows what findom is. It's financial
All
domination.
our listeners know what findom is.
All
We
of our
defined it
listeners
at the end.
are little piggies.
So
Oink, oink.
so
Wall it out.
So I'll describe it how I found out about it originally, because I'm a pretty, I wouldn't say kinky. I don't know what that means, but I'm not like,
Yeah, what does it mean to be normal or kinky, really? You know?
I think there's something to be abnormal. You think nothing's abnormal?
I just think, I don't know. I think there's, I mean, we can get into this more, but I think there's so much of like us just being like, no, I'm normal at sex. Like everything
Yeah.
sex, me normal. And like
Yeah.
we try so hard to be like, to like fit an ideal. And it's like, who's to say what's weird? A little bit.
Yeah.
But then there is some stuff that you're like, well, that's really,
Well,
that's pretty weird.
that's the line. That's
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
conservatives go like, oh, that's normal, so now this is normal too, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
You're gonna marry your dog.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation on a different podcast about, all right, real quick. If someone has a baby, they just had a baby. It's a couple, and they're sharing the bed, and the baby's there because the baby's crying, so the baby's in the bed and the baby's breastfeeding. Do you think it's abnormal, or do you think it's no, that if you were making love as the newborn is being breastfed?
What?
That's a little, well, because it's one, okay. I mean,
Newborn. You just
newborn.
created life. You've had
Right.
sex while it was in your body.
Right.
The penis was even closer in that case.
Totally. I mean, I've definitely like fucked in front of my cats. Like,
Yeah.
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
and the
Sure.
cats just look at me like,
Almost exclusively.
sometimes.
I had sex with someone where the dog was
Small
on the
apartment.
bed.
Yeah, they'll be
Yeah.
on the edge.
I
and
didn't
they're
like
whatever.
the dog being on the bed for
No,
the sex.
no.
I
I
really
don't like the
did
dog
not
in
like
the
it.
crate. I don't like the dog in the room, but you know.
We were having sex, and like she was like, "Oh, I hear the dog outside the door," and I was like, "That's fine." And she's like, "No, let's let him in." And
Yeah.
then the dog came in, and We just took turns doggy
I do
style.
feel like a dog and a baby are different. But
you breastfeed a dog? That'd be okay.
Also, the baby's
but
like,
I also I don't want to. Here's the thing. It's very hard to imagine because I don't have kids. Exactly. So it's like it's two steps because you're saying it's not only is that baby, which for all like that baby's like just laying there like a thing, like but like that baby's on the bed, but then you're saying that the baby's actually actively breastfeeding.
I just imagine
Wait,
like when you just have
is
a
this
kid.
real scenario or are you making this up?
No. I just imagine it happens because I just imagine you're you're a married couple. You're in bed. The baby. You're just tired. When do you have sex anymore? The baby's just there.
She wants to have sex and breastfeed.
She's got like
what if you're having sex?
Like,
the baby falls asleep. You start having sex, and then all of a sudden the baby wakes up, starts crying, but you're so close.
I feel like the baby's in the way.
It's not like in between you. I just listen, and again, I want to be clear.
I bet
I don't have a baby. I've never done any of this.
I don't know.
I just would wager.
I don't want
gun to people's head that at least a third. This is my guess. A third of people who recently had babies, there was something where they were holding the baby, or there was something weird going on. Weird by traditional standards. But to your point, you said things aren't weird, and I brought up something that isn't that crazy.
Yeah.
It's not that crazy compared to all the crazy things in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And immediately you said, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm judging.
You're judging.
No. Well, I think, because you're purposefully throwing some like, curveballs at us also.
Yeah. Like it's not the most,
like,
it's not something parents are always talking about. Like,
well clear. You know why? Because clearly people judge them for it.
Yes, it's so subjective, right? It's so subjective.
So findom, the way I've learned about this thing called findom, it's short for financial domination. I had an older gentleman who would come to a lot of my shows. And I even joked about I recorded a comedy special that I never released early on, and I joked about this guy. I don't know if you remember. He came to a show once at the Pit Loft, and he told me right before, he said, oh, my best friend killed himself the other day, and I wasn't going to come to the show, but then I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, no, you know what? You got to go see this comedian, Gianmarco. And I was like, which was like a lot of pressure to put on to a 6 months in stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And then like the joke that I said in the special was like, and I had a suicide joke, and I was like, do I tell it? He just told me, but I did it, and it killed him. And that was that was early writing, early twists, punchline. And so he just came to shows, and he would, and this is all the way back to 2014. He came to my Fringe play, and he would sit in the front row, and he would fall asleep without fail. He would fall asleep every time, but he'd keep coming to these shows.
Yeah.
And then one day, and he'd write me messages, just like, I just thought he was like an older man that was like supporting me. I assumed he was gay. I don't know if he said as much, but it was just like, it was that kind of like, oh, you handsome, young, tall man. And he said that he ran a modeling agency, and he would be like, if there's ever work, I'll let you know. It was called something to do with like modeling in Asia. Sketchy just in the fact that it's like, when your jobs are on a different continent exclusively.
Yeah.
And then one thing that I know is all his messages, he'd refer to me as sir, all caps. Mm-hmm. Hello, sir.
All caps.
All caps.
Not even just the first letter.
No, all caps. And I just thought it was like, this is a quirky older man. And I would guess 65. Mm-hmm. And then one day he takes me out he's like, can I take you out to lunch or whatever? And I didn't have, money was tight. So I was just like, sure, whatever. I was also like, oh, this will be interesting. This guy's weird. And we went out to lunch. And so we met at Aroma, which no longer exists on 72nd Street, Aroma Cafe.
Great chocolate croissants.
Very good. Yeah. And we went there, and he seemed so nervous. And he was like, oh, I can't believe I'm meeting the great Gianmarco, which I was going by at the time. And he said, he said to me, before this I was in what's the barbecue place that's super junky, like in Times Square?
Dallas Barbecue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I was so anxious. I was at Dallas Barbecue. That's kind of where my office is during the day, which meant he went to Dallas Barbecue and like did work from there. Like that was his Starbucks.
The place where they serve giant
Dallas
drinks.
Barbecue is kind of his office.
That's how he put it. Dallas Barbecue, for those who don't know, it's like
amazing.
It's like it's a fun garbage meal, but it's like you get margaritas in like huge glasses where they give you like a test
bowls.
tube with like an extra tequila shot. You go there to get fucked up and ripped off.
Oh,
and he
my
said,
God.
He said, I was so nervous to meet the great Gianmarco. I had to have a margarita before I came. And this is 12:30. And so I'm like, okay. And he starts showing me in his phone like his favorite pictures from my Instagram, like that he had saved like into his photos, like screenshots.
Okay.
And some of these are way back. I mean, there's a picture of there's a picture of my mom breastfeeding me while my dad fucked her. Like this was way back. And then he slides over an envelope and it says #findom on it. And he says, he
writes out a hashtag.
You should look into this.
Okay.
Because it's something I like to do. And I have no idea. I don't know what was happening. And it was $200 in like an envelope from like a bank. And I looked up findom, and the videos I saw mainly were like mostly women, like, you know, real gussied up, super expensive nails, like some of them in front of an ATM being like, hey, you dumb piggy boy, you're gonna give me some money, or does your wife have your little dick under her thumb, you fucking blah blah blah. So I'm like, he's like, I want you to do that, you should look into that as a job. And that's not I think I'm a little bit prudish, and I'm also not like I've always looked at anything, if you want to put this in the BDSM category or anything like that, that's just not my jam. Mm-hmm. I'm not like master. That doesn't appeal to me.
Right.
Doesn't appeal to me.
But you don't like money?
Well, sure.
That's why I do it.
Of course.
Money.
So he starts writing me and he's like, I want to give you a monthly tribute. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, tell me that I have to give it to you. And I was like, and I keep going like, well, you don't have to. If money's tight for you, I don't want you to feel. I felt stressed. I felt like, am I using this person? So then here's the really weird part. And here's where I like cut out. So he moved to Florida and he could be dead for all I know. The Twitter's gone. And he moved to Florida and all of a sudden he said, sir, I have to stop my tributes. I'm applying for a new home. And I'm worried they're going to see the payments I've made to you and consider me not of sound mind or being elder. He used the term elder abuse. And I went, I'm out. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I looked at all my messages and like, I never, until he said, ask for the monthly tribute again, like that creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah.
So it stopped for a while. And then one year he came back and he said like, I'm in the money again, baby. I want to give you payments. And I was like, okay. And he said, no, I need you to demand it. So I sent like maybe one or two. I was like, you don't make the demands here, you little scum. Give me my like, really bad, really. And this is all typing out, and I'm pretty sure I had like a friend like help. It's weird for me. I struggle with it.
I wish I could have helped you.
And this is where Tova starts entering the picture, and like Tova was like fine, like it was kind of funny, but then I do think like then he said, I want you to buy a tape measure and send me your measurements. And not like shoulder, waist, like my penis.
Yeah.
And for some reason in my head, this is why I don't think I'd be good at this. I didn't feel like I could lie. And I was so scared I was going to send him my real penis measurements and he'd be like, the sir would disappear.
Your monthly tribute just goes down.
Of course.
Goes down like 100. Like
or he'd be like, now you owe me a tribute.
Actually,
And like looking back, I'm like, I could have just lied.
Yeah.
Like I do.
You should have
all
too.
other times.
Yeah.
But instead, I think
the combination of the elder abuse thing, like being like mentioned at all, I think it's good that you got out, even if he was like not that old, and it just there's a weird component to like he was also like he was having to coach you so much that it wasn't a natural as fit for you.
And he kept wanting me to call him, like, he sent me like memes of what findom is, and he wanted me to call him the F word really bad.
Yeah.
And I said, you got the wrong host of The Downside. You need my buddy Russell Daniels. So like that was the end of it. I bet if I looked at it, maybe $2,000 over the course of this relationship. But it was always weird. And like what I found weird, I especially when like he said that thing about the elder abuse, where I was like, it's one of these things where part of it is like you're supposed to be like cruel and mean, but then when that's said, and the only other thing I'll mention is that one birthday, I had a birthday come up and he was like, do you want tickets to see Chappelle? And this was before Chappelle was transphobic. This was when it was cool to like Chappelle. And I was like, yeah. And he said, oh, I can't afford it.
What?
Yeah, maybe I should say, well, you fucking better go work harder. So instead he said, would you like any scents? That's what he called cologne, scents. And he came to an Uncle Function show. I mean, this is probably the most people I ever brought to an Uncle Function show.
Yeah.
And he came to the bar and I didn't get back about the scents. I was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
And he brought a bag filled with 20 cologne samplers.
Oh my God.
And and I'm in front of my boys.
This bitch.
Yeah.
And like
I remember him coming one or two times.
Yeah.
He sat in the front row and he slept.
He slept.
Yeah.
And so that was my so now tell us how did you get into this?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Well, first of all, I also want to just like comment, like there are a lot of people that are into findom that are cheap. And like those last behaviors was like, you're being cheap. So funny. I just find that really amusing, and we can get into that more. But okay, so I had a friend who had done these foot parties, and it's like where you go and you have like just a bunch of guys pay you to like massage, kiss, lick your feet. And I was like, well, like you're fully clothed, and I was waitressing at the time and auditioning like crazy. And I was
have
like,
you always had an open view about sex and this stuff, or were you just like, feet, that's far away from my brain?
Was that your first?
It was more that.
Yeah,
it was more
okay.
like, this is far away from like the parts I wouldn't feel comfortable with guys being around. And I think I also figured they would like do more massaging, and like sometimes they do. But you can also get like just like knuckle deep in their mouth with your feet.
Yeah.
Okay. So you go.
But yeah.
What did they tell you up front? Like they're allowed to put their mouth. Did they tell you that?
Yeah. I knew that. I think they told me that. This was quite a long time ago too. I've been doing this for like over 15 years.
Oh my God.
A really long
Okay.
time. And I used to not be as open about it. Like, or at first maybe I was telling people, and then there was like a lot of like people I would date would be like, you shouldn't tell
I mean, I
people
imagine
that,
it's 2006 you're saying, or
Yeah.
2007, that the way the world views sex work
workers,
has changed a lot considerably.
Immensely,
So I
yeah.
imagine at that time it was like shocking to some people, like
Yeah, totally.
that you were, yeah.
So it was like a combination of like the world changing as well as me growing up. Like I became more and more comfortable and open with it.
So who asked
but
you? Is this a woman, a coworker?
No one asked me. Just I had this friend who went, and she made like a lot of money. And I was
What are we
like,
talking about here?
Well, I can tell you the first night that I went to go bartend, and I actually didn't make it on time to bartend. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do sessions. I was the most like clothed woman there. I had like a turtleneck and like a cute skirt and heels. And I walked out of there with like over $600 back then too,
Wow.
which was a
Yeah.
lot of money.
In one.
Before Biden fucked up this whole country's
Oh,
economy.
Yeah, this is like pre-Obama.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is a while ago. And
so you
Yeah.
got to the party. What
What's
what
the
kind
venue?
of guys
What's
are we
the
talking
venue?
here?
What's
Oh, the venue was like this, like just
pit
kind
loft.
of honestly, kind of like it was just like a dark space, like everything was painted black. It was very bare bones. There were maybe even like some like curtain type things. But what's pretty weird is everything's kind of out in the open, and you have to pay extra to do like a private session. So essentially, like there's just like a guy like on the floor, like licking some girl's feet over here, and then there's like someone who's like tickling her feet over here, like totally in front of everyone. And most of the clients didn't necessarily feel comfortable with that, but you had to pay extra, and you had to get extra time. Thank you.
Sure.
For going to the private little like, I I mean, they truly just like set up like little structures to be able to kind of have just this little kind of private, almost closet-y thing that you could be in. There was a seat. And
is someone running? Is there a stage manager for this?
Yeah, there's a stage manager. Always make sure to call places. Yeah. Very on top of places. No, there was a person that ran these. I think maybe still runs them. Was kind of disorganized, as you could imagine one might be. But essentially, I can tell you also, like, the first man that walked in was like, kind of like, looked like a librarian, just like a sweet sort of older man. I feel like he had a cardigan on or something. And I was like, oh, he looks nice. And he came up to me first. Like, I was the first person that was approached. And he was like, I'd like to do a private session with you. So like my first experience was like, all right, let's go. And so I went in to this private little like closet-y thing. And he just is like going to town on my feet, just like loving them more actually. I would say going to town is like more like receiving my feet, like, like just like overwhelmed by my feet. And I'm just like, wow, I can't believe these have this power over him. Like,
are you like,
well, sorry. Do you
1,000 questions?
Yeah.
So many. I know, we're just on the first experience.
I have so many questions. The one that comes to my mind now, you as you look back at that first night, do you feel like your performance, like what you did then, because you're like, you've not been trained, you've not like had any experiences doing it. So do you feel like over the years, like, it's just an interesting thing. Like, do you feel like you were just like, here's my feet? Like,
totally.
Or were you
a character?
Have you developed like a more of a thing?
I think, yeah, totally. It does. I think there was a little bit of like, put on like, hello. Like, I think I already do kind of like put that on when it's like, be sexy. I'm like, yes, here I am. I'm sexy.
Yeah.
So I think there was a little bit of that, but so there's also a lot of people who have foot fetishes that don't necessarily want you to be dominant with them. And so I think like a lot of these people are maybe in that kind of in between category. And so I don't know. I don't think he was like dying for me to be dominant with him, but who knows? But he kept extending. He extended 3 more times. Or wait, once, twice. So I was in there for an hour and a half. An hour and a half because each time was 30 minutes.
And each like, does he say like, I want 30 more, here's cash?
I think he just said it and then he gave the cash at the end, but he had the cash.
So you're just sitting there for an hour and a half alone.
In like a dark space with this man, just like my feet, just like on his face, just like loving life the most I've ever seen a man love life.
Is he smiling? Is he talking?
Yeah, he's just like it seems like a little happy pet being like caressed by a hand.
90 minutes
a foot.
It's
a long time.
A long amount of
time. Does it feel like he's like, is he just like saved? Would he, if he had his druthers, to be graphic, take out his druthers, his desires. You heard the phrase?
I don't know if
like his druthers, his like, if he had it his way, if he had a magic wand, would he be, to be blunt, taking out his dick and using your feet to finish himself? Or is it like a different kind of sexual, like that's what the 90 minutes thing, it's like,
right.
Are you kind of like humping the ground, or is the feet on the face just enough?
For some people it is. There's definitely people that want to do that. Like, in general, like my biggest rule is like they're allowed to touch themselves as long as they do it like over here.
And then when you say that, does that include they're allowed to finish?
They are allowed to finish.
As long as it's over there.
As long as it's over there.
Yeah.
It's not getting, there's no like waterworks cleanup on me.
Even that night. You were already at that point at that night?
No, I wasn't. Okay. But the thing I was going to also add is there's still, even when I maybe let them know, like sometimes I'll let them know like, hey, these are the rules. Sometimes it's not even necessary to talk about. Depends on the person and the situation. He, like a lot of them will still like not want to, because maybe, for instance, if it is like they're worshiping me, like, because there is an element of like worship. And I think in this case, there maybe was like, there's kind of like, it's like they want that to maintain. There's people that like to be locked up in chastity. Mm-hmm. Like there's actually like a maintained sexual pleasure for some people by not finishing, by not even maybe touching themselves.
Yeah.
and then there's also like edging, obviously, which we know of, like, and that's its own thing too. But yeah.
So how long was this party? If you did 90 minutes with this person?
This party went, I probably left there at like 2 a.m. and I think I got there at like 7 p.m.
Okay. So you had that initial experience that night and you got made good money. And so then what was so
he wanted to extend more and I was like, I want to see the party. I want to see what this world is like. This is great that I'm crushing it money wise, but like I want to go crush more money and like see what this has to offer. And by the time I went out there, it was like in full swing. Like there were tons of people and music was like blasting. There was like kind of like a cheesy open bar that was like, they had sodas and
some people are just out in the open, just sitting in a chair, and I guess that's cheaper.
Yes. Well, yeah, it was the same price per minute for us there, but you could do like as little as 10 minutes. So if you're like testing out the merchandise, it was not expensive.
How many women or how many people are doing are like the
I think there were
like
probably
hired.
about, this is so long ago, but I would guess like 30 to maybe 40 women. That seems high though.
Yeah.
Probably more like 30 women. And then there were probably less men than women.
Wow. Okay.
Usually. But they're hopefully at least doing other sessions. But some of the men also just would show up and want to talk to people and like would not want to do sessions.
Yeah.
Which was the worst. It was so obnoxious.
What is so funny about this, you could compare this to other interviews where like people talk about their family and we're like, all right, moving on from the family. And we're like, I want to know every square inch about
we
this
have so
1
much
foot
more
party.
to cover. We should get off the foot party.
No. I'm still.
Well, it's her entrance.
No,
into
I'm
the
fast. No,
world.
Yes,
I'm
it is.
fascinated. I'm just talking about our behavior as men. I think there's just like I want to know everything about this foot party.
I think it's human.
I don't know how to put this bluntly. No, I don't know how to put this bluntly.
Just put it bluntly.
You're attractive. Are all the people at these foot? Is everyone who is showing off their feet? Like a good looking person, or there's some like people that traditionally are not attractive but have stunning feet. Or does it feel like being everything else being regular societal standards attractive in America?
Yeah. I would say more kind of like in the middle of having kind of like a little bit of everything. Less like just the feet.
Do you have good feet?
I do. I have fantastic feet.
You do?
I have some of the best feet.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's why I was so successful at it. Well, that and we were talking about this before, but I'm an improviser and I know how to like do improv with them, which is essentially what you're doing. You're just doing improv with horny men.
Yeah.
Which is just what improv is.
Now I know I would let someone foot fetish me for just for the experience. Would you do it for any amount of money?
Like you let someone worship your feet?
Yeah, I would totally be curious.
Sometimes
I don't know if
nice.
I don't know. I feel like
a massage part feels nice.
I think I would get. I'm very ticklish on my feet, so that would be my concern with it. But yeah, I'm open.
That's what we should have. There was that great documentary about the tickle person. We had a friend who got caught up in that.
Yeah,
I had someone who was very into tickling, and he would draw on my feet. And for like certain holidays, he would like draw like a Valentine's Day scene and like. And I actually wasn't that ticklish, but I would just pretend to be. I would be like, "Oh my god!"
Oh yeah.
So you do this night, and it's like this incredible money. Was your mind blown after that? Were you like, "Oh my god, I think I'll never wait tables again"?
I was feeling that way. Yeah, and I still did a little bit of the job, but I was like, "Fuck it!" Like I was kind of like. Already over it. I was working at Blue Water Grill, which is
I know Blue Water Grill.
Yeah. And I before that I was at like cute little wine bars and I was like, oh, this is like not my vibe. It's like so corporate. And I like there's like a staircase and at one point I like dropped, I couldn't carry things very well. And at Blue Water Grill, you really had to do that. And I like dropped like just like a glass that went and shattered down the stairs, and the whole restaurant just like looked up at me. And then like I stood there, and then like the bottle of water fell over and just soaked me as I'm just like standing there still. Yeah, I didn't do well in that situation. So I was like, I want out.
Yeah. And so in a city like New York, is there like a foot party every night? Like what's
it was
like how
once
often
a
were
week,
you,
I think, back then.
Okay.
And is the foot party, is this technically legal?
I mean, technically, as long as we're not touching each other in any sexual areas, it's legal.
That's what the definition of sex, like legally. I remember being a kid.
I think porn is different than like sex worker, but yeah, I think technically, as long as you're not performing like you touching each other and like genitals, then I think it's technically legal.
I
but
remember
again,
being
everything's
stunned
so gray.
as a kid. I would get, whatever free newspapers on the street, and in the back there'd be, sex workers, pages and pages and pages of, call this for a good time, call this. And I remember my dad kind of explaining to me, that's how I met your mother, of just like what it was. And it was one of those moments where early on you're like, wait, it's illegal, but it's advertised, but everyone knows. It was just one of those moments where you realize kind of the hypocrisy of the world and the strangeness of like, this is advertised, but it's not really legal, but they just lie, but we all know what's going on here.
Yeah. So, another thing that like makes it legal is that you don't call it payment. It's a tribute.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So like they are giving you tribute. So you're not like, I am being paid for my services. It's truly, even though, that is also that is what's happening, but there's also like an element sometimes of like gifting, so it's again, very, very gray, murky area.
So you start doing these weekly foot parties. They're called foot parties.
Yeah. Yeah. And then eventually I like did sessions. They had like a place that you actually could do private sessions at in addition to the foot parties.
Okay.
And so I was there for a little bit, and then I left, and I built up quite a client base. But me and
you're getting their email after these things?
Sometimes email or phone number or something.
Yeah.
And this one of the women was fired for no good reason. She was amazing. She had like a master's in violin and was just like so on top of it. Whereas like the person who was running this sometimes would forget to pay the cell phone bill, and we were the ones booking the appointments. So we'd be like, we can't book appointments. Like I showed up to work, and I like can't work because you didn't pay the like $30 bill for this burner phone.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, let's bounce from this place. Because we had enough of a client base. I also advertised on Backpage at the time, which was a thing, which Backpage does not exist now.
Now, Backpage, why was it made illegal? Because they said that...
Because sex workers would do things on it.
Did they also make it... I thought
it's because
it was
of
illegal.
sex trafficking,
Sex
probably.
trafficking.
But that's they'll use sex trafficking to undermine sex workers,
sure,
unfortunately.
Yes. Or there might be some sex trafficking they're stopping, but ultimately there's sex trafficking without this page existing, and it just makes sex work more dangerous.
Exactly, yeah. Because now the sex workers, like, they can't, do any checking on these people. It's like they have to just like go in blind to situations. Yeah. Yeah. So, but so I was very grateful for Backpage, and so we like the three of us. The others, I think, was like becoming a lawyer. She was like taking the bar. And we subletted an apartment and used Google Calendar and would just use this apartment for doing sessions.
Wow.
Did you have a name of the company?
No, it was just like three ladies in a sublet. There it is.
So, okay, so you're working with them.
Uh-huh.
You incorporate this shit, or is it just you're just doing session by session?
Session by session, and the more I kept meeting people, the more people would maybe want me to be more dominant, or I would like, meet people with different other kinks. Like it started with just purely foot worship, but more and more I was kind of discovering different things.
Did you ever need did you ever feel like we need security here? Did you ever feel scared? Like it seems tough.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit when I was there, but when I was doing it on my own, I did not. Because also when I did it on my own, I would meet them outside in public. We would go inside for the session. So like I really was able to set up my own rules much more when I did it on my own. But there, like it was just like some person that called the burner phone that would show up. The weirdly, the only time I felt like scared was this time a drunken man showed up that was actually not like stumbled upon the place. He literally had a wine glass in his hand. This is while I was at the place, not doing stuff on my own. And I thought he was my client. Like he showed up and he buzzed. And I was like, oh, hi, come on in. And I'm like talking to him. He's just a random like old drunk guy. And I'm like, okay, well, so I can't even remember everything I said, but he was like, oh, like this is what's going on. And I was like, oh no, this is not what's going on. Like to him again, it was like he thought like, oh, this is like full service like sex stuff. And I was like, no, this is like a very specific niche thing and you need to leave. And I had to just like get him out there. And then he like kept coming back and buzzing. And I was like, oh God, geez. I was like so scared he was going to just like show up. But yeah, that passed. Yeah. So weirdly, like most of my clients are like very sweet, or at least the ones that are obnoxious, I can like filter out.
Any patterns emerge of like is it every sort of man you could imagine?
Yes, absolutely. Like everyone thinks everyone who's into findom is like super rich, and that is not the case. Like I have had all ages, all backgrounds, like all types.
Yeah. What was the transition? So you said that foot led to just some other things, but how did you land on findom?
Yes. So I had a client who loved to talk a lot and would talk all over the place about everything. And then one day he actually talked about something I was interested in, which was he was like, how about after this session? And he was always looking for ways to like change it up. He was like, how about after this session, I pay you for the session, and then we go to the ATM down the street and you put in a number. I'll put it, well, here, let me walk us through slowly. I'll put in my debit card and enter in my PIN. Then I'll step to the side and you take over. And he was like, and you can pick whatever number you want. But he was like, if the number's too high and it doesn't dispense, like then you don't get anything. But if it's, low enough that it's in there, you get it.
It's like I've Squid Games is just what comes to mind, but it's just like it's like a game of like, it's like we'll see.
To me, it's like Deal or No Deal, but the banker is just like a guy whose foot was. My foot was in his mouth.
What did you put in?
Okay, so I was like racing around in my thoughts because I was like, I had never taken out more than.
Before you say, okay, what was he wearing?
He was well dressed.
But wait,
well dressed.
He had money.
I have another thing though. Isn't there some banks have specific limits, even if it doesn't match
specific daily limits?
Yes. Specific daily limits.
And so if you go over the daily limit,
what are you going to put?
I'm only thinking of this because one time I had to do it for a sublet, like a down payment, and I think I couldn't do over like.
You could just say you did it for a findom person.
No. I'm just trying to. I feel like it was like something lower than I thought it would be. Like I thought it was like 1,500 or 2,000 or something. But you've got to be able to pull out more than that. I don't know. I would say 1,500.
See, when you brought that up, I remember once.
Or
I would do 500. I would do 500.
Maybe I couldn't pull out 3,000. And that's why. But it was something like that. So I would be nervous. Maybe I would just do 1,000, knowing you could definitely pull 1,000 out.
I would put in 500, knowing that
she's like,
I'd feel good.
What'd you put?
What'd you put?
Okay, and keep in mind this is like 14 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. That's
so
true.
It's not even now. So I was like, I'd never taken out more than like $200 at the ATM. So I was like, okay, it's either between like 300 and 500.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, do I go low and be safe and like make sure I like, get something, or do I go a little higher and take a little bit of a risk, but maybe it's a bigger risk. I don't know. So I put in $480 and it came out. Good. And since then we graduated to, if it doesn't come out, we just try again or like go to another ATM or And so now my minimum generally, at least with him, and anytime
you still have him.
I do still have him.
Wow.
Okay. So
That
all right,
is
so
14. That's like
these are just it's just so.
Oh, I have a lot who've been serving
good
me
on
that
you.
long.
I mean, that's like to keep them.
So at this point, for the foot, for that day, what did you get for the foot session? It was like
for the session itself, I probably made like $150, $200.
Okay,
like not much.
Had you heard of findom, or was this
No.
like so you go there and
I
this
didn't
is
even know what this was. I didn't know there was a name to it. But then slowly, I think he told me more about it. And then I started telling my clients about it and they started getting interested. And someone eventually told me about Twitter as well. And I discovered it on Twitter.
so what does a session like with him look like now? You meet up and just go to the ATM?
Yes. Yes. Well, okay. So with him, we've also he cultivated a whole look that is like my calling card at the ATM, which is I wear lingerie underneath a Burberry trench with like stilettos. And so I show up at the ATM with him and usually we'll meet late at night with him.
Late at night.
Yeah. Normally I don't meet anyone after 10 p.m., but this guy, 15 years.
Yeah.
I know I'm making 1K.
Same ATM? Because some of these ATMs become,
different.
I mean, to become homeless shelters at night. A lot of these banks really do become like places for homeless people to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, he usually gets there before me and can like kind of scope it out. And he's usually like waiting there for me, like shaking.
If I was a homeless guy and I saw a woman in a trench coat make a man give her $1,000 and then leave,
I would just be like,
I'd go,
I'm sorry.
the universe is so unfair.
I've so many. So
Okay, yeah.
So yeah.
So
walk
back
us
to the
through
first foot party.
No. So walk us through like his session now,
Yes.
like what that would be like.
I meet him at the ATM.
He's shaking. He's excited.
Shaking. He's like trembling. Like he's excited, but it's also like this deep need in him for me to take from him. Like it is about a power exchange. Like in BDSM, like it's all about a power exchange. Like with findom, power is money, which is, our society. So I meet him, I show up, I'm wearing my trench. He opens the door, barely speaking, just like can barely even speak. And then he goes up to the ATM and enters in his PIN. As he does that, I unbutton my trench and once he steps to the side and his bank account is open to me, I open up the trench so he can see the lingerie I wore.
Is the ATM camera seeing all this too?
I mean, yeah.
I know that camera's there because when the ATM doesn't work, I go to the camera and go, fuck you. And the guy's like, yeah, fuck me, but guess what? I get to see later for free.
So yeah.
Wow.
So I reveal this lingerie, enter in the number, which is usually now just 1K.
How long is it
It's a slow, an unbutton and then like a slow reveal.
Yeah. And is he going like, or is he making a noise?
Yeah, he's mostly like, oh God. Just like his eyes are doing that like bow wow wow thing.
And so then it's $1,000.
It's
you put it in.
$1,000. I put it in. Sometimes it might not work, and I'll either do a lower number, and we'll go to another ATM.
So if it doesn't work, what do you say? Do you say what the fuck?
Is it any of that with this guy? Like,
There's not so much. I mean, there is my dominance with him, and again, this is like where the improv like comes in really handy. Is I can read the energy he's craving, and sometimes they might flat out say it, like what this one guy was saying to you, like, I want you to do this. Like sometimes they'll say it directly, or they'll be like, I don't want you to do this in this way that you're like, that's absolutely what you want. He likes having just like a normal conversation with me. So like we have like a very like chill vibe, but then when the power's turned on, it's there and it's quiet. It's like a quiet power rather than like, and that's also, I would say, even my specialty that I do. It's like less like yelling at people and more like, I know I deserve this money and I'm going to get it from you. Like I know my power, and that it's acting. Cause I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm like, I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Just total acting. What is it?
In your mind?
Yeah.
Is this guy fine financially? Do you ever give it any thought?
I do, because there are some like what he was mentioning. There are some that like part of it is that they're suffering, or part of the fetish is going into debt. And I never really know like what their finances are. Like I can get an idea of like, you know, the car they have, or the clothes they're wearing, or whatever else, you know, whatever other indicators are. But you never really know. And I used to, you know, feel really responsible for them. And more I've like learned to be like, you know what, this is like not mine to hold. And like, it's hard, but I have to try to like let it go of it, because some of them also, I even had a therapist say this, that like when like a pubescent, like before like a man's sexuality has like really developed, he oscillates between with the way he sees a woman. Sorry, this is a very binary example,
Sure.
but you know, and there's so much more in between, but in this like cis like situation, they will oscillate between the woman being a god or a demon. And so I get either of those. And sometimes it's from the same people. Like I will be treated as like goddess, like truly we use the word goddess a lot. Or daddy. Sometimes I'm called daddy.
Really?
Yeah, that's fun. All kinds of things. And princess, they love like bratty spoiled girl, like all of this kind of stuff. But then, so there's that. And then there's like, you're ruining my life. And some of that is the turn on for them, or some of that is like them flipping it. Some of it is they have a self-destructive impulse, and they want me to hold that for them. They can just put it all in me and not have any blame on themselves. I can just kind of be the scapegoat. A lot of them have homewrecker fantasies, which is like they have issues with their wife. And so they're like, oh, you're trying to like ruin my marriage. And it's like, no, you want me to ruin your marriage. Like that's all. Yeah. Or it's like, them just needing to
worry some woman's going to come and
I have, but I would also like, I would speak like pretty frankly with her and be like, look,
you're a demon and I'm a god.
I never have with a woman.
Yeah.
I mean that because I'm really an outside source, and like I have pretty clear boundaries too. I'm not getting super wrapped up in these like these clients of mine's lives.
So you've never had a situation with a client where you're like, you can't come back anymore because of
I have.
Oh, you have,
but
not because of finance. Have you ever had like where you're like you could tell this person like either
like after the
didn't
ATM
have the money anymore,
after the ATM they lie down on the floor and they go, oh no, this is where I stay now.
like do you know what I mean? Like
I mean they'll straight up be like, oh my god, I miss you. I want goddess, can I like have a session but I don't have any money? And I'm like, no. Like you're like that guy going to you being like, hey, do you want these tickets to Dave Chappelle? Oh sorry, I can't afford them. Like that's like the shit that I'm like, get out of here. Like you initiated all of this. And that's very frustrating to me. And I get that all the time.
Pro bono findom work look like?
What would you be doing?
Monopoly money?
Yeah.
So how mean do you talk about improv and you talk about how it plays into that. How mean do people ask for? How mean are you willing to get? What do you say?
Yeah, it depends.
Are you dropping the word?
The F word?
Yeah.
But I have had people ask for it in the past, and I used to use it in the past. I generally don't use it anymore.
Sure.
There used to be a lot of like,
piggy?
Hey, whatever. A lot of piggy. A lot of piggy.
That would
Loser.
be my go-to.
Loser's a big one.
Loser.
I used to have a lot of people, and I dabbled in it, and then I was like, no. Racial humiliation.
Oh.
Yeah.
God.
And again, this was like, like keep in mind, like this is also like the way they deal with their own trauma. So like, it's again, very murky waters, very gray area.
I think it is. There's a lot of like,
yeah.
I feel like I heard a lot of like, it feels like at least Twitter. It's sometimes I'm like, that's this moral universe that really is the liberal mindset. And there's like, don't kink shame.
Right.
But then there's also like other things where like, that would not be cool.
Right.
I think in many spheres.
Yeah. But then like, that is a way for that, like people to work through trauma. So it's like, at first I was like, well, I'm doing it in like a supportive environment. And like, they even want to be like, you really believe this, right? And I'll be like, no, Like, and they'll actually not want to do a session with me. Like, they'll actually be like upset that I'm like, no, I don't believe in this. I don't believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
You really, that's really,
Oh, that's very,
and that sounds like a sting operation.
yeah. You're like, this feels like an undercover.
You really believe in this, like outside of the game
it's
we're
them
playing?
genuinely being like, I really want someone that believes in this, which is, yeah. So there's just so much
Wild.
like shame and stuff like intermixed
of
in
course.
there.
Yeah. Wow.
And when you're doing all this, are they aroused? Do they ever like come in their pants? I mean,
sometimes,
are they?
Yeah. A
And
lot
then
of them are at work. A lot of
what do you say?
A lot of them are at work. A lot of them are like either like I'm in the middle of a meeting. Goddess, please, can you just send me a picture? I can't see videos because it might play out loud. Like, and then they'll be like, I just came in my pants, goddess. Like, you know.
You know what? So I mean, the first thought I'm like, when I'm on the phone with my dad and he's like distracted. Where I'm like, I bet that's it.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah, maybe.
Absolutely could be. Not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
This is all wild. So what are the ethics? I feel like you have to create your own ethical code because this is like a whole world that exists outside of what society even talks about openly.
Yeah.
But I feel like I remember this is more with sex work, and I am curious kind of how your intersection and what do you view as what you do sex work?
I do, yeah.
Like, I feel like there was a thing for a while. There was like Lindsey Graham is fucking a lot of men, and they're all about to like figure out how to out Lindsey Graham. Where there's like sometimes people participate in sex work while actively participating in sectors of society that repress sex work, particularly politics.
Yeah.
And there's always something like whenever there's a political event, all the sex workers get a lot of work that week. Like there's just all this stuff. And so, but it also seems like you don't very often hear about sex workers outing their clients or going like, I filmed. It's a big no-no. But like, where is the central hub of the sex worker community? Is it Twitter?
I think it is. Well,
that's not
again,
that good.
Also,
Twitter is a bad place.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different places, but and again, also this is like a very niche part of sex work that I'm involved with. But we do have like more like escorts and stuff that like will kind of interact with us. Like, it's actually a really positive, like generally like the other women that I interact with, are like super supportive and like really fun. And we kind of are all on the same page. We share a lot of the same clients. Like, a lot of these clients are little sluts that like want, they'll even like, oh, this is a thing with like findom or being a dom in general, like just femdom, is like a lot of our clients will be like, I want to be owned, and I want to only be owned by you, and like be, sort of like a monogamous sub, and they will just always cheat. Like, they will always go to numerous doms, and I will be like, look, we can just not do that. Like, you can even be like owned by me. And I'm like, it's fine if you go see other people. And they're like, no, goddess, I want you to punish me if I do it. I want you to be really harsh with me. And I'm like, I'm not going to like, no, like, I don't care. Like,
well, that's what I think is, and this was like when I had these conversations with this guy where like you have the character.
Yes.
And then like sometimes you're like, okay, can we talk for real
Yeah,
for a
you're
second?
like-
can we
you're
be
like-
rational
you're like,
human
when can
beings
we-
for a second?
When are we doing a business trend? Like, when are we not doing?
But
a
I could
character?
understand if I was like super
confusing.
into it, I'd be like, never break character. Daniel
Yeah.
Day-Lewis, this shit.
Yeah.
Well, there's like a way to also still maintain the character and still like let your guard down a little bit, or like, you can show other sides of yourself that are still like, you just get to flesh out the character even more,
Yeah.
Are there any clients that you have an emotional attachment to? Do you keep yourself separate? Like, how do you? I just think it's like, I mean, imagine it, I would consider it the same way with therapy, where it's just like some people you might care about, some people you hate, and you're just doing it for the money. I mean, it's just a lot to balance emotionally, when I imagine some of them are very emotionally dependent on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and granted, I don't see most of them regularly because I cost a lot of money. So so there's only so much of my time that they can have. And if they're disrespectful of that, then like, I'll block them and have maybe like an unblock fee or something like that. But I would say there's a few I like really get along with really well and I can have real conversations with. But in general, like there's like one that's like actually like a really good friend of mine. And everyone else I like have pretty like,
you would hang out with them separately?
I mean, it would be like, we would also do a session, but he's also like, he also doesn't live in town. Like, so he like used to live in like London. And so like, it would only be like when he'd be in town, and he would also like take me to go see Hamilton, or like, let's go to like.
And when you're seeing Hamilton, do you laugh with him too? Or do you go, these seats suck?
No,
second row.
This person in particular is more into like foot worship with like some femdom stuff. He's not necessarily, while he does pay me well for the session, he's not like into findom. That's like its own niche. There's a lot of different niches within it. So my specialty is findom, but there's plenty of stuff that's just like I'm doing dominatrix work.
And go.
I was gonna ask, what?
So that first foot party.
No. So the people in your life, what's been their kind of relationship to like you doing that? Or, you know, how was this received amongst friends, family, that sort of thing? Were there any people that were like very like against it, or you know, what's been that journey for?
I've definitely had a lot of like partners who acted like they were cool with it and then were like not. Or not with certain aspects, you know, there's definitely like a lot of stigma attached to it. So I've like had to navigate through that and had my own shame with that. Did you ever stop doing
something because you're like, this partner doesn't like toes in the mouth. I'll take that off the menu.
I definitely did like get a little like stricter with like, I don't know if I'm trying to think if I had like specific.
You open up the trench coat and there's like a sweater on and they're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I mean, and granted, like I ended up breaking up with this one person because he was, I mean, like just like in a nutshell, he was like, oh, you're a hypocrite that like you don't like people catcalling you, but you're cool to like if you like make money like when they sexualize you. And
those
I'm
are
like,
different experiences.
I'm like, yeah, that's the consent part.
Those are very different.
So I pose a question to you. Let's say Nicole, the PR thing, her job doesn't go great. And she goes, Russell, I have found a great way to make money. I go to parties and men suck on my toes. And you're cool? 100%?
As long as it's safe and like
ATM trench coat?
Well, this would be a new thing. Like,
but I'm just saying, like, do you think you're the kind of person who could process that and be
I think I could. It might take a little bit and some deeper conversations about things.
Yeah.
I would also, it would probably be surprising if it was like thrown on me right now. But I also think that I think I could. I think I could.
I think I could too. But I would definitely have like a lot of questions about like what's
wouldn't
like,
think that it's the same as being catcalled, being cool with being catcalled, because that is like
that feels more like it sounds like you're reaching for something too because you're not happy.
Yeah, he also like had some misogynistic stuff that I would like call him out on, and so he was like, you think I'm a misogynist, but here you do this thing, and I'm like, yeah, okay, dude. Yeah. We didn't last. But yeah, the other thing too, and again, there's also like different levels of doing this. For instance, a lot of people do it solely online and never meet in person.
Oh yeah.
Since I don't show my face online, like in
so that's your rule. That's you figured that out.
That's a rule. That's a rule. I don't show my face online. I don't do nudity on my end.
How do you view this as your side hustle?
Yeah, or my day job. I call it my day job.
Yeah,
because like you talked about for this on this podcast, you're like you're not going to say your findom name,
right?
Because where it's like part of it, like well, if this was your main thing. Do you become a findom celebrity and eventually,
right.
The only people who can have you, it's 20 grand a set. Like, I mean, some people I'm sure build little empires, little followings.
Yeah. I mean, and I've had one that then Twitter shut down.
Yeah.
Like I was up there in like, I mean, I still am like, I still have all my clients and stuff, but I had 57,000 followers for like a niche, like imagine a niche market for that too.
Yeah.
It was.
And what kind of tweets were you posting?
And I'm still known, but I would just tweet also mostly pictures, like of either, or sometimes some video of me at the ATM, or there's a level of like keeping up an appearance of always being like really rich that we all have to kind of do.
But is this pictures? Was your mouth in there or just neck?
Mouth down,
And it just
like
be
my
like
lips.
eating, fancy meal.
Yeah, like sometimes I would be out with people and like I would go through periods where I like wouldn't drink at all, and I'd be like, "Let me hold your wine," and I take a picture of me like with the wine, or like I'd be, tweeting something about like someone be like, "What are you up to now, goddess?" And I'd be like, "I'm out at like a fabulous club, and I'm like in a like dingy rehearsal for like improv, like being like, doi, 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 doi.
Oh my God,
like,
you're
totally,
at Ripley Greer.
Yeah, I'm at Champion Studios.
Champion.
Just like I'm
so
having
funny.
oysters. Like none of it. I use like a picture from last week.
Yeah.
But also making money while I'm, there at Champion Studios.
And Twitter, are people like just sending you? I'm assuming there's a link, and like people are you having private like DM? Like how does that work?
Yeah.
Like how are you interacting with people digitally?
Yeah. So you can like either I would be interacting with them on Twitter, on OnlyFans. I'm on OnlyFans.
Gotcha.
On usually in the top 2 to 5% of OnlyFans.
Wow.
No nudity, no face.
What are you? You're just posting the same kind of stuff on there?
Yeah. I actually here's a crazy thing. I'm not. We're not allowed now. All these MasterCard rules. Remember when OnlyFans almost shut down?
Yeah.
There's all of this new restriction stuff with porn, and I cannot show me in public, even if like no one else is in it. I can't show me with like a client and it looks like a session, especially if there is like they have to be tagged. If anyone else is appearing in my stuff, even if they have like a mask on, they have to like have like be tagged to really make sure they're there consensually. But also like,
and this was not so just for those let me see if I have it correctly. OnlyFans kind of said we're not going to allow sex work anymore. There was a huge backlash. To sex work, porn, nudity, all sorts of rules. And it was partly because they were having trouble with getting cash and MasterCard. And then they said, okay, we take it back. But there's still a shitload of rules. There's
intense rules. I can't show me with cash, like especially with another like person.
Are people happy or are people furious at OnlyFans still?
There's, I think like, it's a mixed bag. Like I think most of us are very frustrated with OnlyFans. Like they really police us hard. And there's always like the possibility of you getting your account suspended or shut down.
But if it was, you'd be okay because you have clients. Like when you lost your Twitter, was that I lost my TikTok for a day and I had a nightmare.
Yeah, it was a huge blow. Because also like,
and what was the reason for?
I don't know. This is the worst part. They never told me. They didn't give me warning. They just shut it down. I tried to appeal. No one responded.
Try to, if you have a friend who works at these.
I'm
that's all it is. It's so, I'm lucky because I'm in a circumstance where it's like I know maybe some people who know some people at the thing and they can turn it back on. But just because I'm on the good side of it, I'm like, this is not a good system. That's
totally
people. Yeah. This is a public utility borderline at this point.
Especially because the rules change. Like, and
they're not. A lot of it's computers doing it, or one person
just
complains.
Bots looking for certain words.
Garbage.
So
system.
my guess is it was like an old tweet that taken out of context would have been considered like violence or like hate speech or something.
It would
like
be
that.
funny if it was just like an edgelord joke, and had nothing to do with findom.
Oh my god!
Just some
they're just like, this is bad.
Because there's full on porn on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like I have to stop looking at Twitter. Like I don't follow like a lot of porn stars. But there's some like comedians that do porn, and I'll be looking at my phone at the hairdresser, and all of a sudden it's like someone just getting DP'd, and I'm like, I wasn't scary. So one question I had was, obviously you're like, compared to the general population, to participate in this work, you're kind of more open sexually or willing to like explore these sides. What do you think stops you from? Is there a term for sex work that involves having sex and sex work that is this? Is there anything to delineate? Because did you ever think about crossing that line? Do you see it as a line or just like, I like this?
I do see it as a line. I mean, for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I mean, I've even, the way I even discover my rules is also obviously by breaking them, by being like, oh, that's a boundary. Like, you know, like being like, that was too much. And so there were definitely like instances where, you know, guys would push to do something and I'd be like, okay. Like one guy kept wanting to like lick my asshole. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable with this. And I was like, there's a lot of people that like ass worship. And I was like, okay, if you like kiss my butt and stuff, all right, we can try this. And again, it was him wanting me to be dominant, but he was pressuring me to do things I didn't want to do. And he kept just like, every time he would like move the thong out of the way and like, and go for it. And every time I would be like, I don't like that. That makes me uncomfortable. He'd be like, I'm sorry, goddess. And then he'd stop and then he'd just go right back and do it again. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, no more of like ass worship, like anything like close. It was just like, it just felt like too much. It felt like too invasive for me.
Yeah.
I also generally am not like, I'm not like attracted to my clients. So like, that's, you know, there's a lot of people that will like get into relationships that like, maybe they do have attraction with their clients. I have just such walls up, which has always kind of been my vibe. Like I've never enjoyed men hitting on me. I'm always the one to make the first move, actually. Cause I just feel like, I think to me, it feels like I just like, oh, they're just trying to have sex with me. Like I can't trust what's coming out of them. I can't like get to know them from like a more relaxed place. Yeah. So anytime I've like, you know, ended up, you know, dating someone, it's because I generally have made the first move. And we were in a situation where maybe they couldn't hit on me or they, you know, we were just friends, whatever it was. So that's specific to me. I wouldn't say, I mean, I would say in general, like doms, like dominatrixes, like mostly it's like about them doing stuff to other people. And usually they have pretty like intense boundaries and walls. And that's like why they choose that, to like have the power to have that control. But yeah, like I would say, you know, most escorts are like, that probably means that maybe sex is on the table, but there also should always be a discussion about it. Right. Or like sugaring. It's like, again, a lot of gray area. Like there are a lot of people that do sugaring that like don't have sex, or maybe they do with certain clients, but not with others, or whatever it is. So I think it just really depends on the person.
Yeah.
Do you have friends that do sex work and they have sex?
I've known some that have. I would not currently. I know a girl who's a friend of mine who she lives in LA now, so I don't really see her very much. But she used to, and like worked at a place. Yeah.
Does it feel like a community, like akin to the comedy community or a community?
It does a little bit. It does. There is like, I actually have a bunch of findom friends that I like met through Twitter and like we'll hang out sometimes. And right now there's like a whole group text thing going about this one sub that has like a lot of money that these like pretty famous findoms have, that we're all doing like a group like ganging up on this sub, and like we all get money. So like we did a whole Super Bowl thing, and like it was like this whole spread of like, okay, if like, you know, the Gatorade is blue, then like these doms get this money or whatever. Yeah.
I think it's sometimes interesting where with some of these guys that it seems like they have so much money that it doesn't hurt their bottom line.
Some of them,
but they still get to play the game. Of it.
It's also, a lot of these people have a lot of like feeling like they don't deserve their money. And so this is a way for them to like let go of that. Yeah. And again, like in general, like anything where there is like trauma or shame, like sexualizing it turns it into pleasure in your body and like allows you to feel it and move it, rather than like, don't feel that, don't think that thing. So like in general, like these darker fantasies, like even being humiliated and called a loser is like moving a deep thing like out of you in a way, and like being able to express it and like face it, as opposed to like, you know, trying to avoid it and never deal with it and it just building up.
And then ultimately, is this something that you're like, one day I just want to put this down and move on?
I think I mean, there is an element that like can be quite exhausting sometimes, depending on the clients. And then there's some clients that are so great. I think I would just like keep certain clients like as like a possible thing here and there.
Do you ever fear?
Who knows?
Yeah.
You ever fear it'll come back? And is there any of that actor fear of like, I'll get cast in a Disney thing?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I don't show my face. Because if I showed my face, I would make so much more money.
Really?
These women, they make like $7,000 a day, like just on like clip sales, which is like not even having to interact with people. And I actually make and sell clips, and they will sell for anywhere from like 10, 15, 20 bucks a clip, and people buy them. And like, it doesn't even have my face, but like, luckily I'm like expressive enough and I know how to tell a story.
Yeah.
I can tell a story. But that's a huge part of it. Like my clips are so silly in the world. I even like me and an ex, like we had a joke about like the names of my clips sound like Jenna Maroney, like films in 30 Rock. Like one of them's like date night with my feet, or like caught you staring. You're my foot bitch now. Like just like Jenna Maroney now stars
and
in.
the clips are just, these are videos?
They're
these
videos.
So what would that video be if you made that? It would just be like, you were like, you looking at my feet?
It would be like me sitting there and like, I think maybe I'm talking about something else and I'm just like dangling my shoe. I'm like wearing stilettos and I'm dangling like my Louboutin. And I'm like, are you listening to me? You're staring at, are you staring at my feet?
It's kind of interesting where I feel like Cameo is kind of like, it's a similar thing. It's just like, I want to have someone like have a little personal video with me.
Yeah.
Like Cameo feels like almost like, well, it probably started in this industry. I feel like a lot of things started like in sex industry, and then they commodified it.
Yeah, I mean, OnlyFans is changing more and more out of like sex work too, right? Like now it's like personal trainers.
Well, some people put comedy stuff on there, and I'm like, I just can't even imagine getting people to that. OnlyFans, for them to rebrand, it's like,
so
really?
Silly. Yeah.
How are you going to rebrand right now? It's like if Pornhub went into like unboxing videos.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to be like, find my unboxing channel at ujizz.com.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough sell. Well, this was very fascinating. I'm sure everyone, when they find out, they have a million questions. Is it fun to tell people about it?
It is. Yeah. It can be a lot, like, especially on like first dates. Because I like to tell them right away. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, it's, which I mean, as a performer, you also get a little bit of that. But as you can imagine, there's an even more like, I need to know.
Sure.
There's so many more follow-up questions.
Would you ever date someone with a foot fetish?
Maybe.
Or would that feel like work? Like they go to massage your feet. You're
like,
the only one. The boyfriend goes to massage your feet. You're
good.
like, honey, please. I've spent all day at the office.
I'm good.
Please don't massage my feet.
I do think like they might have a difficult time. Like I might be on too much of a pedestal for someone who has a foot fetish. I think that would be why, not because I have a problem with a foot fetish, but it's because I might be, again, the like God demon thing. Like having sometimes been on too much of a pedestal in a relationship, like it gets exhausting very fast.
Was it ever weird to be doing sketch comedy and making thousands more than your teammates could dream of making?
Yes, especially when you have to leave rehearsal and like put on a sexy outfit and pretend like you weren't in a sweaty rehearsal. Like, and just like the two worlds feel so different. And I used to not share it in the comedy world because I didn't want to be like, oh, there's the girl that's a sex worker, and like not be like seen as like a comedian. Yeah. Who also does. I
just love you forgot to take off like your old lady wig.
Yeah. Oh, I have like an extra mustache that fell into my bra. Like, yeah.
That would be so funny. That would be a funny.
Yeah, that's an idea for me. And I'm writing a show about this.
Yeah. Do you have the name of the show yet?
I don't yet. One name I'm messing with is Sex Job. Which I feel like is pretty good, but it doesn't necessarily capture the like, dominatrix aspect. So I'm not sure yet. Could just be financial domination, but that might be a pretty hard Google search. It's like figuring out something that is like the hook. Sure. That is what I do.
That is tough.
But not everyone's like, so many other things will show up. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know, but it's been like a fun thing to write about.
Listen, piggies, this is my show. Something like that.
It was so funny because you had a sketch where someone calls you a piggy boy, like, come on, piggy boy. And then when I got the findom thing, it was so funny. I was like, oh, Russell uses the same term, piggy boy. It was like all those, it was like your sketch.
Yeah. But mine just came out of thinking it was funny for a fat person. But
Yeah, to be clear, in financial domination, it's because they're like a piggy bank.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny if you're like, I don't have fat clients.
But then,
To be clear, there are fat people are.
No, I mean, there are some people that like to be made fun of that, like for their fetish. There's all sorts. Most of them want me to make fun of their dick size. That's like
So maybe he
number
wanted
one.
you to have a small one for when you were gonna.
Well-
measure
No,
and
it was
send
the other way. He wanted me to make fun of his dick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I guess that.
Well, I
makes
don't know.
sense.
With men and men, it was, I mean, who knows what he wanted from me. But maybe I'll reach out.
But so no, yeah, I mean, it opens a whole nother.
Well, this was, can you tell when someone has a foot fetish? Like, can you see the way that they look at feet?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's like one of
In
those
summer.
things.
Have you ever like been doing comedy with someone and like that person has a foot fetish?
No, because I was probably too busy to like think of the next joke.
Yeah.
When people,
That's
I
what
remember
you're
like,
doing, comedy.
I remember like
No.
one time, like, you know, just scrolling through porn and it was like a foot video. And it's like, it's one of those things where you really see someone who has a fetish or like that enjoys something you do not. And you're like, man, people are different. Like, it's just something about seeing like someone like praising over feet. You're like, people who might be out there who still are like being gay as a choice or whatever, and you see someone like with a foot fetish, you're like, you clearly were wired completely differently.
Yeah.
This is not, it's just such an interesting when someone has something so specific like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk too. I've had a lot of clients say like they think it's because, and we will never really know, I don't think, but like one theory is that with foot fetishes, because it's a very common fetish, is that when you are, you know, I think like age like 3-4 is when like your sexual like desires and what you're attracted to is like starting to develop. And so you're on the floor by a bunch of feet. So like you got that cute babysitter or your mom's friends.
Sure.
And you're just seeing these feet walk by and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I wrote
back
a
to the
sketch-
original example. If a married couple was having sex and the baby was sucking the mom's toes, is
No.
that
I just don't want a baby
Yeah,
there.
I just don't want the baby there. I remember. Do you remember I wrote that sketch about a foot fetish? And I thought it was so funny, and then it didn't go. It was fine, but
It's
it was
hard to write fetish
It was a
comedy.
wedding photographer who is like, you know, when they take the photo of people's like nice wedding shoes.
Yeah.
And it was like, so it was like, oh, we're gonna get that shot of looking down, and then he just kept removing everyone and keeping one person in, and they'd be like, why don't you take your shoes off?
Oh, God.
And it became clear so quickly that he just had a foot fetish. But
I do not remember that. That would be a very fun sketch.
I think we did it
I
when you
think
weren't there.
I think fetish comedy is tough.
Yeah. It
because
is.
it's like
Yeah.
I think so much is humorous about the fetish itself. Someone
Yeah.
obsessed with feet, like there's it's sometimes something is so funny or interesting or unique that it's like you're adding a hat on top of a hat.
Yeah.
That it can be
Well,
challenging.
But the other thing too is that the
make a
the
joke
foot
about.
thing. What's weird about people's reaction to the foot thing is that it ultimately, in the grand scheme of like kinks and things, it's like seems like kind of a nice, like light one. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like in the grand, like, so it's weird when I think it is weird when people are like think that foot fetish is so weird because you're like
Sure.
it's feet, like it's like not it just feels like pretty nice. That's a nice like
Yeah, yeah,
little
yeah.
one.
There's another reason
know?
I think fetish comedy is hard and often doesn't work is because it's immediately explained once it's like, oh, it's a fetish. Like there's
Yes.
nothing else to unpack. It's just like, oh, they like this thing,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, okay, done.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if there's another premise where it's like, this happened, what, like, why? And then there's more and more reasons
For
why.
sure.
There's nothing else except that there's the fetish exists after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it'll be a great one person show.
Yeah,
I
I'm
hope
excited.
to develop it. I mean,
I'm working on it. It's coming along.
I don't think I know any other like comedians who talk about it. At least
No.
I sent my picture of my feet once. I was shocked because
Oh
I
yeah,
don't have.
he wanted the feet.
Yeah, and I just he sent me $50. I took it from my waist in this kitchen, and I it was just one of those. I was like, this is not worth $50. You could go on my Instagram and find a picture I'm on that website, Rate the Feet.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
my friend Chris and I, like, someone just took a picture from, something we did on TV. And I think I did not have a great score. Well, this has been a fantastic intro. Did you want to do it? This has got to stop or a blessing? Did you have something?
Did I what?
Oh, all right, good. That's a good answer. It was in the email. It's fine. We
Oh,
normally
no.
do.
Yeah,
Oh, you
the
have
blessing.
one?
Yeah. I have
Okay.
things.
Okay.
Sorry, you just spoke fast. So I
I
was
know.
like,
I'm
what?
a mess. Do you have a this has got to stop? You want to share with us?
I do. Okay. So last night, I realize this will be later, but we just saw the Super Bowl. And this person's turned to me when we were watching it and was just like, how many people bet about, when they were singing the national anthem, they're like, how many people bet for this person to mess up? And I'm just like, I feel like even if people aren't betting on this, it's like so many people, I feel like when we watch people like performing, especially the national anthem or like, you can see how nervous they are. And I feel like some of it is because we're all watching, like, are they going to fuck up? Are they going to fail? Like, it's this like very like judgy
Who
thing.
was it?
Oh God, I don't remember her name. I
Like,
was too busy reacting to
I
this.
didn't watch.
I don't disagree with you unless it was like someone that I'm like, I hate this bitch.
Yeah, but like,
No, but it's this
There's
weird
this,
thing
like,
of like
we'll
there's a weird thing
see.
with the Super Bowl. Yes, with both the thing and the halftime show where it's every year. It's like impressed me.
yeah,
Like we're all at home being like we're
Mickey
like kings
Guyton.
and queens that can like should be like are owed this like huge wonderful thing every year, and you're like it's just one of those things where you're like it's relatively the same every year.
yeah.
Like
I also
it's-
think with this, it's like we're also bored of the national anthem, so we're like anything to
Yes.
make us
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
like a new song, maybe. Could we just be like, oh, that's a nice song rather than like, I've heard this song a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they going to do the part that's hard? Oh,
Yeah.
that's the part that's hard.
When I
Yeah.
was a singer, I did like to see men fail, like cracking. Like they were cracking
Gianmarco.
compilations. Yeah, it was just surprised you that I struggle
Yeah.
with feeling joy for other performers. Is this a new trait that I've introduced to you? I had no idea you're like this. Normally I have a sound cue, this new board. I didn't put the new sound
yeah.
cues in, but this has got to stop. That was a great. This has got to stop.
Thank
Give
you.
performers a chance.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Super Bowl is the worst circumstances you're in. I was thinking about it watching the halftime show where like they're surrounded by people, but they're so far away.
Yeah.
So like Snoop Dogg and all, they really gotta, though they had it so easy. Like Snoop must have sang that song, the songs that he was rapping, I don't know, 1,000
Yeah.
times in his life.
Yeah, it
He's
was
probably like,
amazing,
we don't
though.
even need to run a dress of this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to kind of dance. And
Oh,
I know
yeah.
the words really well.
Yeah.
That's gotta be
there's just
fun, man.
there's just a
Yeah.
weird thing where it's like I don't know. Like I don't know. You guys put on a show. There's just a weird thing where people are at home and they're
I'd
like,
love that. They knock on someone's door. Hey, come
"Hey,
here.
why don't you do
Come
it?"
here. No. We're not going
No,
to have
no, you be
Aerosmith
in
this
charge.
year. You get
be
in
in
there
charge
in the
of
middle.
designing and picking the balloons and the lasers that we're going to be using. You do it. It's just a very I agree with you.
This show was fun. I thought
yeah.
it was a fun,
didn't watch
perfectly entertaining halftime show. That's all I watched. You
Yeah.
should watch
Oh,
it.
I thought it was wonderful, the halftime show.
Yeah.
I was into it.
Yeah.
And then 50 Cent put on a little bit of weight, and everyone went fucking nuts making fun of 50 Cent
Really?
getting fat. And it was one of those things where I'm like, guys,
he's like 50
we
something.
said that we weren't going to do this.
Also, he hung upside down.
He hung upside down. I guess like in
Oh,
the
I gotta
music
watch
video.
that sentence.
In the music video, he was upside down for a portion of it. So
Oh.
like when he came on stage, he was upside down.
What song did he do?
You Can Find Me in the Club.
Oh yeah.
And it was funny because he did put on some weight and he was upside down. So it's just like the whole image was like, what's going on? Was he on the top floor and he fell through? And finally, there's no but. Let's see what the computer has. This is You Better Count Your Blessing. Russell, you have a blessing to wrap us out?
Oh, come back to me.
Fuck you. What the fuck?
No,
My blessing. My mother. I guess she's been listening to the podcast.
really?
And immediately, it is not a great sign. Every time a family member's like, I've been listening to the podcast, I'm like, oh, fuck. What did I say? What did I say about them? So, Mom, if you're listening, I love you. She'll always be like, some of the stories, she doesn't say, I remember them differently. She goes, some of the stories didn't happen like you say them. And I go, I disagree. But, Mom, I do appreciate it. It's nice that you listen.
Yeah.
She says she does it on hikes. And I hope you know everything I say about you. They're all jokes.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I am very thankful for, and it's kind of generic, but
Music.
no. We had a great show Friday, and anytime we have an Uncle Function show, it's good, and I love doing it so much with this group. But I felt like it was a particularly good energy, sold out crowd. I felt it was a great show from start to finish, and I always feel very thankful for the group. It brings me a lot of joy.
Jessica Fry, who teaches at NYU,
Yes,
has these students come out. And this is my first time really witnessing it.
Yes.
Where like when she comes out on stage,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know what this is a horrible fantasy to reveal. Where, I thought, oh, well, I can't even say it out loud. It's so narcissistic
You want
and
the biggest
embarrassing.
cheer?
There's something like, oh, one day, like
Gianmarco,
a bunch
it's
of
the
people are
biggest
going to
cheer.
come and I'm going to go out and it'll be like, Uncle, at the beginning we go, Uncle Russell, Uncle
Yeah,
Chris,
yeah.
Uncle Gianmarco. And like,
you think
like,
someday all your Instagram fans are gonna come to the show?
one day all these Instagram fans will finally buy a ticket. But let me tell you, when it was like Uncle Chris, big woo, Uncle Douglas, big woo, Uncle Gianmarco, slightly smaller woo, and then Uncle Jessica, like
The loudest
like,
woo.
Oh my God, people going crazy, like the Beatles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Walked on
Yeah.
stage, and it was pretty wild.
long
It's
as
pretty
she-
wild to be there and be like, wow,
Yeah, she's gonna
look
she's
how
gonna
many
keep
people
doing
came
it
here
now.
for you. Yeah.
Well, also, I really think they all got tickets because they were like, we had sold a decent amount of tickets before, but I think we sold like 40, 50 tickets that last day. So I have to imagine most of those are like
Yeah.
those kids.
Do your clients ever come to your shows?
Again, like most of them don't. Pretty much all of them don't know my real name.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. So no. But
If I was a dom, I'd be
two.
like, come to my improv show.
Oh,
It's $5. You got that, you little piggy slut?
You're gonna see me play a drunk little pirate boy.
And do you have a blessing?
I do have a blessing. I Zoom cooking classes. In particular, my friend Lexi does this one. Oh, her what is it? Her Insta's Le Petite Friday, like the little Friday.
Uh-huh.
And it's just so nice to like get to like learn how to cook something, like especially like last night I made like meringue, like these like pavlovas with like a homemade orange curd. It was just like epic, but like you get to also learn how to do it like in the comfort of your kitchen. Like I feel like, and she can walk you through when you're like, I think I messed up. Like I feel like either you go to a place with like a pristine kitchen and you're like, okay, I have to recreate this in like my crappy kitchen,
Uh-huh.
or you are like watching a thing or reading a thing and you're like, I don't know if this is right. Like to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
someone who's like an expert, like be able to be like, show me like how much it's dripping from the spatula. And they'll be like, keep going. Like it's really, really
Yeah.
helpful.
yeah.
And
what is it
just
called
really
again?
fun. Well, her Insta is Le Petite Friday,
Le Petite Friday.
but she does these cooking classes regularly. Yesterday was like an epic one for Valentine's Day. It was the
Sure.
Love Day one. So we made, mini pavlovas. We made, carbonara, scallops in brown butter with
my
capers, and then a butternut squash and like walnut salad.
That sounds so
Well,
good.
you hear
So
that,
good.
Tova? Check it out. Le Petite Friday. Can't wait to see. Anything you want to plug?
I feel like shows are like slow, like dripping in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think my magnet team is starting shows.
Yeah. Magnet team.
Musical improv. So
What's the name of your magnet team?
Nightshade.
Nightshade.
Yeah.
Go see Nightshade.
Yeah, and they'll be popping up.
Uncle Function. It's the second Friday of every
Yeah,
month.
March 11th is our next show.
March
Asylum
11th.
NYC Friday.
So you
7:30
don't do
PM.
March 11th, do the second Friday the month after.
Yeah.
For me, find me online, but headlining LA March 30th. I'm doing Gilda's Laugh Fest in Grand Rapids, Michigan in April. Got a date in Detroit coming up soon. Lots of dates. Just check out my accounts at Gianmarco Soresi. And just in case you're listening, the guy that I did the findom with, whose name I don't remember. I don't know
I'd
if you
love
ever
to
told
have
me your
him on.
name. I would not put it past you that you're not listening. I have a big fat cock. Big 12-inch monster
It
hog.
deserves so much money.
And reach out with whatever account, and I think my girlfriend will be on board because she wants to go to New Orleans, and that's the only way it's happening. This is The Downside.
1, 2, 3. Downside.